The Washington Quarter is more than just spare change. It's a piece of American history tucked into the palm of your hand. First minted in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, this coin has since become one of the most collected and recognized in U.S. history. From its patriotic design to the rare errors and mint marks that can skyrocket its value, the Washington Quarter continues to capture the imagination of collectors and investors alike. What might look like an ordinary 25-cent piece in your pocket could actually be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more if you know where to spot. First up, let's dive into the fascinating world of the 1985 Washington Quarter Dollar, a coin that so many people think of as just an ordinary 25-cent piece, yet hold a world of secrets, stories, and potential value. At first glance, the 1985 quarter looks like nothing more than loose change you might toss into a jar or drop into a vending machine. But what if I told you that this very coin, when found in the right condition or with the right errors, can actually be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars today? Yes, a simple 25-cent coin for 1985 has the power to shock you with its hidden treasures. Let's start by understanding the history. The Washington Quarter series began in 1932, originally designed to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Artist John Flanagan created the portrait of Washington that has remained iconic on the obverse of the coin. Fast forward to 1985, and the U.S. Mint was still producing this classic design, striking millions of these quarters at both the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, with the D mint mark. Together, they produced hundreds of millions of coins. But as with all collectibles, not every coin is created equal. The obverse, featuring Washington's bust facing left, is simple yet powerful. Above his head, the word Liberty is inscribed, while the motto, "In God We Trust," rests just under his chin. The date, 1985, appears at the bottom. Flip it over to the reverse side, and you see the iconic bald eagle with its wings spread, clutching a bundle of arrows while resting on an olive branch. Surrounding the eagle are the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and Quarter Dollar. This patriotic design has been a symbol of American currency for decades. Now let's talk about why the 1985 Washington Quarter can be so valuable. While millions were minted, most entered circulation and were used heavily in daily transactions. Coins that were passed around for years often show heavy wear and tear, reducing their value to simply face value, 25 cents. But the real treasures are found in those coins that survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. Collectors hunt for coins graded by professional services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, especially those that achieve high grades like MS65, MS66, or even higher. These grades reflect a coin's sharpness, luster, and lack of blemishes. For example, a 1985 Washington Quarter in average circulated condition is worth just 25 cents. But in MS67 condition, collectors have paid over $1,000 for a single coin. That's right, what looks like a tiny, common piece of change could be worth thousands of times its face value simply because of its rarity and top-notch condition. Even coins in MS65 condition can fetch $50 to $100, which is still a massive return compared to 25 cents. But the excitement doesn't end there. Another major factor in the 1985 quarter's value lies in mint errors and varieties. These are mistakes that happen during the minting process, and collectors absolutely love them. Imagine finding a coin struck off-center, where the design is misaligned and part of the image is missing. Or discovering a double die, where parts of the design, like the lettering or Washington's profile, appear doubled. There are also rare cases of coins struck on the wrong planchet, meaning a quarter was mistakenly struck on a blank mint for a nickel or dime. These rare errors can transform a 25-cent coin into a treasure worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. For example, an off-center strike on a 1985 quarter could easily sell for several $100s depending on the severity of the error. A double die could go even higher, especially if the doubling is noticeable without magnification. Some wrong planchet errors have sold for over $5,000 at major auctions. Just imagine checking your pocket change and realizing you're holding a coin that rare. It's every collector's dream. Now, let's not forget about proof coins. In 1985, the San Francisco Mint produced special proof quarters for collectors, marked with an S, mint mark. These proof coins were never meant for circulation. Instead, they were struck with extra care using polished dies to create mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. Proof quarters from 1985 are not particularly rare, but in perfect condition, they can still sell for $20 to $50. The real money, however, comes from those error proofs or exceptionally high-grade examples that can climb into the hundreds. So why does the 1985 Washington Quarter still capture so much attention today? The answer is simple. It's a combination of history, rarity, and the thrill of discovery. Even though the coin is relatively modern compared to 19th century pieces, it still carries a significant collector interest because of its connection to the long-running Washington Quarter series. Plus, the idea that you might stumble upon a fortune hidden in plain sight, in your change from the grocery store or tucked away in an old jar, makes this coin irresistibly exciting. Think about it. One day you're reaching into your pocket for some spare change, and the next, you realize you're holding a coin that could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. That's the magic of coin collecting. It turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. And with the 1985 Washington Quarter, that magic is very real. Collectors today are constantly on the lookout for high-grade examples, rare mint errors, and unique varieties. If you happen to find a 1985 quarter that looks unusually sharp, shiny, or even strange in some way, don't just spend it. Take a closer look. Better yet, get it graded by a professional service. You never know. You could be sitting on a hidden treasure. In conclusion, the 1985 Washington Quarter Dollar may seem like a simple, common coin, but in the right circumstances, it becomes a true gem of the numismatic world. Whether it's a flawless mint state coin, a rare error, or a highly sought-after proof, this little quarter has proven time and time again that it's worth far more than its face value. From 25 cents to thousands of dollars, the journey of a 1985 quarter shows us that even the most ordinary-looking coin can carry extraordinary value. So the next time you come across a Washington quarter from 1985, take a moment to look closely. Because in that small piece of metal, you might just be holding a piece of history, a collector's dream, and a fortune waiting to be discovered. Next up, we dive into the story of the 1986 Washington Quarter Dollar, a coin that might look like nothing more than everyday change, yet it has captured the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters worldwide. At first glance, you might think it's just another quarter, but beneath its simple design lies the potential for incredible worth. While its face value is just 25 cents, certain examples of this coin have been known to sell for hundreds and even thousands of dollars depending on their condition, rarity, and special minting features. Let's start with the background. By 1986, the Washington Quarter Series had already been circulating for more than 50 years, carrying forward John Flanagan classic design of George Washington on the obverse and the majestic eagle on the reverse. These coins were struck at two major mints, Philadelphia, which produced coins without a mint mark, and Denver, which placed the D mint mark just beside Washington's ponytail. The San Francisco Mint, meanwhile, created proof coins, marked with an S, specially made for collectors. In terms of production numbers, the 1986 quarter was struck in massive quantities, over 1 billion coins across the two main mints. With such high mintage, you might wonder how a coin so common could possibly be valuable. The answer lies in condition and rarity. While millions circulated through vending machines, cash registers, and piggy banks, only a very small fraction survived in perfect, uncirculated condition. These high-grade coins are where collectors are willing to pay big money. Now let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse, George Washington faces left, his profile sharp and dignified, framed by the word Liberty above his head and the motto In God We Trust to the side. The date, 1986, sits proudly at the bottom. On the reverse, the iconic eagle spreads its wings wide, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbolizing both strength and peace. Surrounding the eagle are the inscriptions United States of America, and E pluribus unum, with quarter dollar marking its denomination. This design had been in use for decades by 1986, yet every year's minting holds its own story and hidden gems. When it comes to value, the 1986 quarter's real potential shines in the higher grades. A typical 1986 Washington quarter in circulated condition is worth only face value, just 25 cents. But when you find one in mint state condition, things change dramatically. For example, a 1986 D-quarter graded MS-67 by Peace GS has sold for over $1,500 at auction. That's right, a coin you could pull out of your pocket could suddenly be worth more than a month's rent if it's in top condition. Even at slightly lower grades like MS-65 or MS-66, collectors still pay between $50 and $200, depending on the coin's shine, strike quality, and lack of blemishes. And then, of course, come the mint errors. The thrilling mistakes that make coins like the 1986 quarter highly desirable. Imagine pulling out a quarter where the design is struck off-center, leaving part of the coin blank. Or a quarter where the letters look doubled due to a doubling in the die. These error coins are rare because the U.S. Mint has strict quality controls, but a few always manage to slip through. And when they do, they could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars to eager collectors. For example, a dramatic off-center strike on a 1986 quarter could bring in $300 to $500 or more, depending on how much of the design is missing. A double die obverse or reverse, where details like Washington's profile or the lettering appear doubled, could easily sell for $1,000 or more if the doubling is strong and visible. And let's not forget wrong planchet errors. If a 1986 quarter was mistakenly struck on a planchet mint for a dime, or even a foreign coin, its value could skyrocket into the thousands. These coins are so rare that they often make headlines in the numismatic world when discovered. Another area that adds to the 1986 quarter's appeal is the proof coins minted in San Francisco. These special collector coins were struck with polished dies and mirrored surfaces, giving them a flawless, eye-catching appearance. While a typical 1986 S-proof might sell for just $5 to $10. In perfect condition graded PR70, they can climb into the hundreds of dollars. Add an error into the mix, like a double-struck proof, and the price can go even higher. Collectors are particularly drawn to the 1986 Washington quarter because it represents a period just before major design changes were introduced in U.S. coinage. The eagle reverse would remain until 1998, but in 1999, the U.S. Mint began issuing the wildly popular 50-state quarters program, which shifted collector focus. This makes the 1980s quarters, like the 1986 issue, an interesting transition piece, sitting between the classic design era and the modern commemoratives that followed. But what makes this coin truly exciting is the fact that it's still possible to find valuable examples in circulation today. Unlike older coins that disappeared decades ago, the 1986 quarter is modern enough that millions still exist in pockets, jars, and change drawers across the country. That means the possibility of stumbling across a hidden gem is very real. Picture this. You're handed some change at a gas station, and tucked among the dimes and pennies is a gleaming 1986 quarter that turns out to be worth $1,000 or more. That's the thrill collectors live for. The idea that treasure could be hiding in plain sight. So, how do you know if your 1986 quarter might be valuable? Start by checking the mint mark. Coins from Denver with a sharp strike and no were tend to be more desirable in high grades. Next, examine the coin closely under good light. Look for luster, clean surfaces, and a strong strike. Any unusual features, like doubling, misalignment, or missing details, could indicate an error. And if the coin looks truly flawless, consider sending it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC to get it certified. In conclusion, the 1986 Washington quarter dollar is more than just an ordinary coin. It's a piece of history, a link in one of America's longest-running coin series, and a potential hidden treasure worth far more than its face value. From high-grade mint state examples fetching thousands, to rare mint errors that collectors dream of. This quarter proves that even the most common-looking change can hold extraordinary surprises. So the next time you spot a 1986 quarter in your pocket, don't just spend it without a second thought. Take a moment to look closer. You might just discover that this small piece of metal is worth far more than you ever imagined. Next up, let's explore the fascinating story of the 1987 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that at first glance looks like just another ordinary 25-cent piece. But in the hands of collectors, it can transform into something far more valuable. While millions of these coins were minted and circulated across the United States, the 1987 quarter stands out for its hidden gems. High-grade mint state examples, rare minting errors, and collectible proof editions that continue to fetch impressive prices today. What seems like spare change in your pocket could actually be worth hundreds or even thousands if you know what to look for. The Washington quarter has a long legacy. First introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by John Flanagan, the obverse carries the familiar left-facing portrait of Washington, while the reverse features the powerful image of an eagle with spread wings, perched on arrows and an olive branch. By 1987, this design had been in use for more than 5 decades, becoming one of the most recognizable in American coinage. The 1987 quarter was minted in large numbers at both the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, bearing the D mint mark. In addition, the San Francisco Mint produced special proof coins with the S mint mark for collectors. The total mintage was massive, with hundreds of millions of coins entering circulation. At first, this might suggest the 1987 quarter is too common to be worth more than 25 cents, but as with many coins, the details tell a different story. Let's break down what makes these coins so collectible. First, the design itself carries the hallmarks of American pride and tradition. On the obverse, Washington's profile is framed by the word liberty across the top, while In God We Trust rests just beside his chin. The date, 1987, anchors the bottom of the coin. Flip it over to the reverse, and you'll find the eagle's wings outstretched, clutching arrows symbolizing defense, while perched above olive branches symbolizing peace. Surrounding the design are the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and quarter dollar. Simple, powerful, and instantly recognizable. Now let's talk about value. In typical circulated condition, a 1987 Washington quarter is worth only face value, 25 cents. However, coins that escaped heavy circulation and remain in pristine, mint state condition are highly sought after by collectors. A 1987 D quarter in MS-67 condition, graded by Peace GS or NGC, has sold for over $1,500 at auction. Even examples in MS-66 condition can sell for $100 to $200, which is a huge leap from their face value. High-quality 1987 Philadelphia quarters are equally impressive, with top-graded specimens reaching similar prices. But the real excitement often comes from mint errors and varieties. Errors occur when something goes wrong during the striking process, and they can make ordinary coins incredibly valuable. For example, off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing due to misalignment, can bring in hundreds of dollars, depending on how dramatic the error is. A double die error, where parts of the lettering or Washington's profile appear doubled, can skyrocket into the thousands of dollars, especially if the doubling is bold and easy to see. One of the most dramatic types of errors involves coins being struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a quarter struck on a blank mint for a dime or even a foreign coin. That mistake turns a 25-cent piece into a highly prized rarity worth several $1,000s. Collectors actively hunt for these oddities, and they pay handsomely when one surfaces. The proof coins from San Francisco are also an important part of the 1987 quarter story. These coins were made specifically for collectors, struck with polished dies that give them mirror-like fields and frosted details. A typical 1987 S-proof coin might sell for around $5 to $10, but in top-grade PR-70 condition, prices can reach into the hundreds of dollars. Add in a proof error, such as a double strike or missing detail, and the value climbs even higher. It's worth noting that the late 1980s were an interesting time for U.S. coinage. The Washington quarter design was still going strong, but just over a decade later, in 1999, the U.S. Mint would launch the hugely popular 50-state quarters program. This made the 1980s quarters, including the 1987 issue, something of a transition series, common in circulation, but increasingly collectible as time passes. So why should collectors and everyday people pay attention to the 1987 quarter? The answer is simple: opportunity. This coin is still modern enough that millions are floating around in circulation, meaning you could realistically find one in your pocket change today. And while most will only be worth 25 cents, the chance of discovering a high-grade or error coin makes searching worthwhile. Imagine cashing in a coin jar and spotting a 1987 quarter with an off-center strike, only to learn it's worth $500. Or finding a shiny, flawless example that grades MS-67 and sells for over $1,000. That's the kind of story that keeps collectors excited. Let's not forget the emotional side of collecting either. The 1987 quarter is a time capsule, a piece of American history that has traveled through decades of pockets, purses, and cash registers. Every coin tells a story, and the possibility of turning a small piece of change into a major discovery only adds to its charm. For some, it's about the thrill of the hunt. For others, it's about holding on to a piece of history that connects us to the past. And for many, it's about both. To sum it all up, the 1987 Washington quarter dollar is far more than just another coin. It's a collector's prize, a historical artifact, and potentially a hidden treasure worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. From high-grade mint state examples to rare mint errors and gleaming proof editions, this coin continues to prove its value in the world of numismatics. So, the next time you come across a 1987 quarter, don't just spend it without a second thought. Take a closer look. You might be holding a piece of change that isn't just worth 25 cents. It could be a valuable collectible, a rare error, or even a small fortune waiting to be discovered.